I'm Fred Willerup. I'm CTO at LeanLaw, responsible for product development. And I'm joined by Chase. Who are you, Chase?
Oh boy, that's a big question. It keeps changing every time you ask me. So I help run the support team here at LeanLaw. Customer Success Manager is my title, but if you use the chat support, you'll probably end up talking with me or one of my team. So
the theme today is time entry. So we're sort of going back to basics, if you can call it that, after the last few months having covered billing, trust accounting, expense syncing, and all these exciting features. We're kind of taking a step back and looking at all the options for tracking time that we have in the product, and the subtleties that are hidden here and there in the different parts of the product. So hopefully you'll learn something. We will also at the kind of the second half talk about some new features that we have been talking about before, but we will uncover some new things we're working on. So I think we'll get going. Chase, are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready as I'm going to get today.
All right. Ask questions during the webinar here. Unfortunately, we don't have it enabled so that you can speak, but just put questions in the chat box or in the question area, and we'll answer them as we go along. If we miss your question for some reason, we'll definitely get to it after the meeting. I think we have a pretty good track record of getting to everybody's questions during the call. So, all right. I'll leave it to you or over to you, Chase, to talk time entries.
All right, let's talk time entries. Let me share my screen here real quick. There you go. Should be able to see that now.
Yes.
Cool. Perfect. So like Fred said, we're going to go through all the different ways to track time. And we're going to start with the most basic here with the calendar page. So real quick, high level, I want to just quickly cover them. We've got the calendar page. That's what we're looking at now. I'm sure you're all familiar. The time entries page, which is the next tab over, the desktop tracker, and the mobile app, both of which Fred will actually be going over today. But I want to start with the calendar since that's what a lot of our users use. It's pretty comfortable, it's pretty familiar, and it's easy to just look at and understand. But since we're having a little bit more of a high-level conversation, I'm just going to skip the basics here and go through some of the more advanced features, getting them set up, things to really look out for, and to make sure that the users in your firms, whether you're an accountant with multiple firms or an operator, making sure that your staff knows these are options. These options are available. Good grief. Okay. So like I said, calendar, we're pretty familiar, right? We can click somewhere, we can make a time entry, pretty simple stuff that we'll see throughout other areas for tracking time. But I want to start actually with snippets. Over here on the left, you'll see those. Now, these are these pre-made descriptions for time entries. You click on them, it automatically fills in the description box for a time entry. And this is super, super useful if your staff end up doing a lot of the same tasks over and over. Anything from phone call with blank regarding blank, all the way to, I've seen some pretty technical examples like we've got here in the demo file. Especially, I think, a lot of like trademark attorneys end up using a lot of really lengthy snippets here. Super useful for those repeat options. Now, snippets are also available from within a regular time entry. You'll notice here there's that snippets dropdown. Same list, and it's also searchable. Makes it super easy to find them. Thank you, Fred. And then now these snippets are available firm-wide. So anyone in the firm can access all of the snippets. And you'll want a way to manage those. As the green text here indicates with manage, we can click on that and that opens up all of the snippets we have currently. And it gives us the ability to delete them as well as add new ones. So if I wanted to add a new one, hello, there we go. And now there's that snippet down at the bottom. Now I don't need that one, so I'll go ahead and delete it. But if I did, that would now be an option here over in snippets. Cool. Moving right along to single day versus multi-day view. Down here at the bottom, there's that white square and then some black, looks like rectangles. That allows us to switch between a single day view, which is what we're looking at now, versus multi-day. So you'll notice up at the top, now it shows 3 days. And on the left, on that month overview, it's now jumped to 3. Now, depending on the size of your screen, of the window, of the resolution, this will change. So if I zoom out, now we can look at, wow, that's way too many days, but the screen is really small. Depending on screen size, if you're looking at it on a tablet versus, a huge monitor, you're going to get different days, but you can change that resolution here with that plus and minus to see more or less of those days as well. Now, the cool thing about this multi-day view is it allows you to find gaps in your week or in your day. Especially with that multi-day view, we can see Wednesday, not a lot of time tracked in the morning. So what were we doing from 10 o'clock till 4 p.m.? That's basically the entirety of the day. But especially for paralegals or attorneys who really like that visual of looking at, where they're spending their time throughout the day, super, super easy to find gaps, as opposed to the time entries page, which is just, a list of entries. Okay, like I did mention, the month overview here on the left has an interesting little tidbit some of you might not know. You'll see, for instance, here under the 12, there's that green line, and then 14, there's also a green line on the 14th of May, but it's not as long. So this is a quick visual indicator of how much time is actually tracked on that day. So if we look at 14 versus 12, so 12, we've got a bunch of time entries here, and as opposed to the 14th, which just has that single time entry. On a similar note, there's also the total number of hours down here at the bottom. That's the total for the month. And I believe that's based on the timekeeper filter you have set here. So currently we're looking at Frederick Taylor. If we switch to Chase, oh, look, I have 4 entries for the entire month. I should probably start tracking time. And then right beneath that timekeeper filter are timers. Something kind of unique to this page is that that timers, we do see it in other places, but at least on the website, all of the timers, I believe, are actually run through this calendars page. So these allow you to passively track time, like you've got a stopwatch on your desk. Super great for things like tracking time you spend on an email or on a phone call. Pick your client matter. It's the same that you've seen for every other time entry, except at the bottom here, there's this adjust time option. And that allows you to set the final value. So say the timer was running for 15 minutes and we realized, oh, that was only a 10-minute task. You can manually overwrite that timer like so. Any questions on the calendar page? Went through that pretty quick, but we've definitely seen that one before. Fred, do you have any questions?
Sorry, I was muted. Just a couple of little things.
Yeah.
One, the timekeeper option is only available for some users. Like a normal sort of timekeeper user cannot see other people's time, will only be able to see their own. But if you're an operator or have the permissions set correctly for the firm, you can see other people's calendars here. The other thing on timers, I want to spend maybe a little bit longer on timers.
Yeah.
So the key thing to understand about timers is you can have timers running, one or more, you can stop them, you can start them, and they're assigned to a matter, they have a description. So they seem kind of like a time entry, but they're not really a time entry until you save them. Then we take the information from the timer and we create a time entry from that timer. And when you do that, you have the option, as you can see down here on the left, it says keep timer. So you're really generating time from the timer. You can keep the timer or get rid of it when you save it off to a time entry. But there's different patterns here of how you want to use it. Some of our users have timers open for the clients they work on, and then save off the time every day, and then the timer is ready for the next day, assigned to those same clients and matters.
Yeah,
so
that was some
so
really
anyway,
cool.
I just wanted to sort of get that concept clarified.
That was a really cool piece of feedback we got on keeping timers. I think the attorney that suggested it was like, well, I end up doing the same work on the same matter with a similar description every day. So can we just, basically copy paste, or you can think about it like you're piping whipped cream out of a bag and you just kind of like end, like, oh, you're done with that part, on to the next part. Same idea. You just keep that same information and you can move on to the next one. And now I want cake. That was a horrible example.
So I also wanted to mention that because the adjust time option you mentioned there really isn't that useful if you're just saving the time. I mean, if the next thing you're doing is just saving the timer, you just save the timer. You can adjust the time once the time entry is created. This is really more for, hey, I accidentally left the timer running for 3 hours while I was out for lunch, so you need to adjust it back. So it's like that's what that's for. Okay, I think we probably have covered that. Yeah, I don't see any questions, so I think we can move on.
On to the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, okay. Well, there's one I just realized that I missed. I mentioned earlier how underneath the month view, there's that total view, 94.5 here. The same kind of totaling is done per day. So we see, just at a quick glance, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 hours Monday, 15.5 on Tuesday, and 8 on Wednesday. So same kind of quick visual indicators for totals and things. Okay. Fred, I heard you're going to show us your cell phone.
Okay.
We're going to track time on the go.
It's going to be a little bit of an experiment, but let's try. Okay, here. You should be able to see my screen. Yes.
Yes, so, we can.
We see the product over here that Chase just discussed. I have a picture of my cell phone here. And then I also have this other window open, which is our desktop tracker. So you have these three options for tracking time, sort of at a high level. You can do it on our webpage. You can do it in the mobile app, which I'm showing here, but would be on your phone. And you can do it on this little desktop app that you can install that we call Desktop Tracker. Now, to get these two other tools, if you don't have them already, you go to Settings, and then under Tools, you can install the tracker with this first link, and then the mobile app you can install with for iOS and Android with these two other links here. So that's how to get to these.
And
so let me.
You can also find them in the App Store, right? If you just search LeanLaw.
Oh yeah. Yeah, search for LeanLaw in the app stores and they should appear.
Easy.
Now in these examples, so let me start with a mobile app. I'm already logged in. When you install it the first time, you need to log in, obviously. And one little detail is that it will ask you if you're okay logging into something called Expo, and that is okay. It's the platform we use to create the mobile app. So Expo is okay to say yes to. But the mobile app is really for tracking time on the go. It doesn't contain the full functionality of LeanLaw, but you have time entry, you have expenses, you can see lists of matters here, and you have timers. So you can clearly see kind of the functions you have available by just looking at these tabs down here. So what's not here is, billing. You can't look at your invoices. There's no reporting. And also one thing that's a gap at the moment, you can see your list of matters here and clients, but you cannot set up a client or a matter in here. So to create or start a new client or a matter, you have to go to the web page over here. But to track a time entry, you just click the plus button, doesn't matter which tab you're on, and you can add a time entry or an expense. It gives you this form here that you can scroll on. The current date is filled in. You pick a client and a matter, type in the hours. You can use start and stop times here, or you can ignore it. But there's an option here to kind of enter start and stop time if you want to use that instead of entering hours. Billable checkbox, and then you want to enter a description here, lunch or something. That was not it. And here there's a detail here that if you say save, it'll create this time entry, and then you can create a fresh one afterwards. But if you flip this little checkbox down here, when you save, it prepares a new time entry for the same client, but resets the time and the description so that you don't have to pick the same client and matter again if you're entering multiple time entries.
Very cool.
Okay. Expenses, fairly straightforward. New expense, it works the same way. I don't really need to go through this, I think.
Yes, we know how to track expenses.
I guess on the time entry, I mean, this time entry page shows a list of all the time entries you have. I just tracked this one here, the lunch one. You can go through your day by using the arrow buttons up here, or pick a specific day you want to look at, and you can see the time entries there. You tap on an entry to edit it. You slide left to remove it. So sort of fairly standard mobile behavior here.
So Fred, why would someone want to use this over the web version of the app? I mean, we're all sitting in front of our computers all day, right? Why would I want to track on my phone?
Well, I mean, sometimes it is more handy to, you may come right out of a meeting with a client, you closed up the laptop, you don't want to track time in with the client, and you use the mobile app as you. Oh, I should. How do I get rid of notifications here? Sorry. So yeah, it's for tracking time on the go and expenses. Let's see. The other option here is for tracking time is that if you go to the matters page, you can track time. It's sort of annoying sometimes to create a new time entry and then pick a client and matter from these drop downs here. Instead, maybe you want to go to the matters page, pick a matter, and then you can add an expense or time entry for that matter right there. So that might be an easier way to do it. Let's see what else. Oh, we have timers here. So Chase just talked about timers on the calendar app, and you see the same timers here. You can do the same things. You can start and stop timers with this little button here. When you start a timer, any running timer that's already running will stop. So you only have one running at a time. Once you're ready to sort of scroll off the timer as a time entry and bill it, you click the save button, and then you get to sort of verify the client matter information, the hours that were built up, and then a description if you haven't entered it already. Finally, on several pages, oh wait, sorry, time entry. We have a little filter option up there, the little funnel icon up there, where you can filter down and see time entries for clients and matters and date ranges and things. So that might be helpful. I think that's probably at a high level what I wanted to show on the mobile app. As I said, time entry, expense entry, timers, but no, you can't create clients and matters in here. So that's one limitation. Apart from that, it's got everything you need, I think.
We've got a question. Can we enter time notations in the app using voice?
Yeah, so this for voice, that's obviously pretty handy. For voice, you would just use the built-in dictation function. So on the iPhone here, if once I'm editing the description here, I click on the record function here, and now I am dictating. This is interesting.
It's like we're watching closed captioning happening in real time.
This is very weird. So that's how you would do it. There's no way to just sort of record and say like something fancy like, hey, track 5 hours for this client or something, and then magically we would figure that out. You have to, you basically have to go through the motions here, but then the description, you can click on the built-in record function. And there's a similar function for Android devices.
Cool. So we did actually redesign the app. I think it was over a year now. But if you haven't been in and checked it out in a while, I highly suggest it. It's quite snazzy, lots more functionality, and trying to make it as useful as possible for on-the-go time.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the app. The previous one was not our proudest accomplishment. I think it was not very didn't work very well. Okay, so let's talk about desktop tracker, which is this. Let's move this phone out of the way. Desktop tracker. This is a little app. So if you're on your desktop, you might want to use the web app like Chase went through, and he will also talk about the time entries tab here. Maybe that's the best option for you. But we have a little widget or a little desktop app that you can install that's just for tracking time, and that you can kind of keep down in a corner somewhere while you're working on other things. So you might have another app open where you're working on a document, and so down here in the corner, you can keep track of your time. You can have timers running and so forth. So that's what this is for. That when you're tracking time, it's a little more out of the way and doesn't fill up your whole screen like this tool does. So the tracker here has the ability to track time and to use timers. It does not allow you to track expenses. So that's one difference between the mobile app and the tracker app. It's really just for time. So there's some options up here in the header. For example, one option is to a little pin that keeps it on top here. So if I'm in a document, it'll stay on top, and I can keep an eye on my timers and so on. You can start a timer by clicking Start Timer here. We have some fancy little shortcuts here for email and phone. When you click phone, it'll start a timer that fills in a description, conference with, and you can edit that description. But and then as you're on the phone, you can enter the client information and so on. But it allows you to sort of immediately, with just one click, track a phone call when the phone rings. The same thing with an email. You can click on the email box, and then it'll fill in a correspondence to timer that you can then use. My day is sort of like the list of time entries on the mobile app. It's just basically a list of your time entries. And you can Um, you can see them here and edit them and so on. Now, one thing that's a little weird perhaps is that you can't add a time entry from here. You do that from over on the My Matters page, where you see a list of your matters. So you can search for a matter here, or you can go down and find the right matter, and then you click the plus button to create a time entry, or the timer button to start a timer for that matter. So if I click the plus button, I can do a time entry, type in the hours, etc., and then save, and off it goes. So sorry, I'm going through this a little bit quickly, but in the end, it's really sort of the same stuff that we saw in the mobile app. It's just slightly different. It's a different user interface and it's organized slightly differently. But it's one other option in our sort of toolbox for time tracking that you can use if it works for you.
Looks like we've got a question about, I actually believe it's about the mobile app, but in the expenses, is there a mileage tracking function?
The short answer is no. We have had that request before. So no, we don't have, oh, I need to click on the phone here, sorry. So when you track expenses, there's really only an amount available. So no, we don't have a mileage tracker. We do have it on our list to hopefully add one at some point where you can add a rate or miles, and it sums it up, but we don't automate it at the moment. So
all right.
Okay, anything I missed in these applications, Chase, or do you want to go back to the web app?
That's all I can remember with those two. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I'm handing it back to you.
All right. Here we go. Back to the web version. Cool. So we've covered the calendar page. We've covered the desktop and the mobile app. The last big one for me is the time entries page. And this is probably where most of you are familiar with and tracking your time. So real quick, filters on the left, list of entries on the right. I'm going to clear my name because clearly I don't track enough time here. There we go. Big old list. Great. Okay. So I want to talk about the filters because this is definitely something near and dear to me, as learning how to correctly use these filters. Biggest one up top is the time period filter. So the, what window of time you want to look at. Timekeeper, pretty self-explanatory. You'll notice earlier I clicked this little X here. That's present through almost all the filters in LeanLaw, and that allows you to clear the entry. Another good one here is the build status. So build, not build in all. If an entry is included on even a draft invoice, if it has left the ready to bill step, it is considered build. That's a question we end up getting a lot is, I've tracked time entry or I can't find a time entry. It doesn't show up. Make sure you check that build status filter here, because a lot of folks will use this to review time for the month, whether it's attorneys or secretaries or whomever's running invoicing. Make sure you check that build status filter there. Client and matter, we know and are well familiar with. Moving down the start and stop times. So you'll notice here when I click that, it now gives me an extra column here for the start time and stop time. Some folks use it, some folks don't use that start and stop time. But if you're wanting to do a print or export option, that will now include those in those exports. Show internal notes. So you'll see some of those pop up. Just a real quick, internal notes is a feature that we've got. It allows you to track notes. Think of it as a, the other half of a conversation, or you're talking to someone else on the phone, but then you're also addressing someone else in the room. This is that reference for later. I tracked 10 hours on the phone, but your internal notes could be notes for yourself later, notes for whomever is reviewing the time entries later, findings during that time. But that filter there, the show internal notes filter, allows you to look at those notes while you're reviewing entries on the regular time entries page. And then you'll see here it says lobbying, include, exclude, or only. We've got a custom checkbox set up. That's a feature that allows you to tag entries with a specific type of work. So I believe originally the request was, hey, our firm wants to track any time we spend on lobbying cases or doing lobbying. I'm not quite sure on the vernacular there, but this allows you to filter that custom checkbox to see only those types of items. So actually, I'm going to go look at the setting for that real quick. And that's in firm info. So you'll need access to firm setup for this. You'll notice there's the custom checkbox name. That's where we get that lobbying from. And since we're here, actually, great opportunity to talk about the default time entry increments. This is relatively new, Fred, I believe in the last couple of months. But previously, the default was always 0.1. That's what it will start at, and that's what the increments are. They're in a 0.1 scale. Got a lot of requests and added the 0.25 option. So now the default time is 0.25. And if I put in 45 minutes, it would give me 0.75 hours. There we go. Thomas asks, I don't have show internal notes. Is it only available in certain versions? No, it's, well,
yes.
Yes.
It is actually not something we have made generally available yet. It's opened up for some clients in a test version. And I'll talk a little bit about this after we're done with time entries, but we are taking some. So if there's something we're showing here that you aren't seeing, it's probably something we're about to release, and we will be flipping it on for you at some point. If you want this particular thing now, let us know and we can switch it on.
Best way to do that actually is to ask in the support chat. That way we'll be able to go back and look at it later. Cool. Thank you, Thomas. Let's see. Oh, we've got another question here. When inputting new time, please consider an option to automatically show all time already billed for that matter on the right of the input form. It helps reduce duplicate entries. That is an interesting suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm noting that down. That's a great idea. Yes, I guess we don't have that, so we'll put that in there. Yeah, but there's lots of. I wouldn't say there's no shortage of ideas of how to improve time entry, but we do rely on you to come up with stuff like this to make it better. So
very true. Cool. So I'm back in the time entries page here. You'll notice up at the top, there's now this total number of hours and total value of that tracked time. If you skip to the bottom of the page, very, very, very bottom, there's a breakdown of what that data actually entails. So we can see how much is billable, how much is non-billable, the total value. And again, this number down here, the summary, is based on the filters we have set. So if we change the time period or the timekeeper, or whether we're looking at billed or non-billed, that's all going to change that summary for us. But again, it allows us at a quick glance to get insight into what we're actually looking at. Instead of going through and manually calculating it or exporting it, we've just got that summary down there. And that was actually something one of our engineers, when he had just started, went ahead and put in, and that was definitely a fan favorite for the month, seeing that. Okay, covered those. We went over the custom checkbox and that default entry. Let's take a real quick look back here at the creating a time entry option. You'll notice here at the top, there's that standard and advanced flipper. And if I click advanced, we now see, oh, look, rates at the bottom. So by default, a rate for a time entry will be whatever the default for the matter is, or whatever the default for the user is, depending on how it's structured. But if we need to change the rate on an individual time entry, flipping this advanced tab gives us the option to do that. So if I wanted to have, one of my one-off rates, shellfish here, instead of the default rate, I could manually adjust that here. Cool. And then
I should say here that some of what Chase is showing is not available to all users. Specifically, all the stuff related to seeing amounts and rates and being able to adjust rates is something you can control under permissions. If you flick over to that sort of real quick, I don't know if you're planning on doing that, but we typically under time entry here will have the group of timekeepers not allowed to view and adjust rates and maybe even not see time for others. So that would constrain that page significantly. And so if you're freaking out that, hey, am I timekeepers seeing all this information, the answer is go here and it can be controlled. And by default, it isn't shown. We also have a question here. It's sort of a general, so this is asking about the billing tab, where when you go to billing, there's a time period filter that if you click on that, Chase, quite often clients would want to use either up to today or the previous month and before. And there's a lot of mistakes made if you get this filter wrong. You might build something that's not ready to be built. And so the suggestion here is to make this more sticky, I guess. In general, we'd love to hear from you if the default filters or the filters are not sticky enough and so on. These are actually fairly simple changes we can make to make it a lot better for you. So thanks for that suggestion, Linda.
I actually recall we were experimenting with changing the default here at one point. Fred, I believe we were planning on doing like up to today as the default.
Yeah. It's a long story. There's some I don't necessarily want to spend time on that.
We would need to get popcorn and some comfy chairs for that conversation, but yes. Cool. So since we're already here, a great time to talk about a new feature, which I believe is now available, Fred, correct? The write downs?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so talking about time, transitioned a little past tracking time, now into invoicing and, those final stages of what do we do with a time entry. I'll go ahead and open up one of these here, and we'll take a look at one of these time entries. Now you'll notice there's now some extra options here at the bottom. So we've got hours worked, write down, hours billed, and then our rate and amount. Fred, real quick, can you describe for the audience what write down is or why we added it?
Sure. So before you only had the option here to change the hours worked, essentially. So if you had 10 hours that somebody worked, you only wanted to bill 5. We would forget about the 10 and only remember the 5. And so you lost kind of track of the write downs done for individuals and for clients. So what this allows you to do is that if you have let's say a paralegal that worked 10 hours on something, the attorney comes in and says, wow, we can't really bill 10 hours here. We're going to bill 3. We now keep track of that write down in various reports, so you can see summarized all the write downs done for individuals or for clients or across the firm as a whole. So this is a critical parameter for kind of productivity tracking and reporting for many of you guys.
Right. And just to quickly follow up on that, no, I don't want to save the invoice here. What Fred's talking about when he mentions reporting is the productivity report, which is, I totally missed it. There we go. Timekeeper productivity. So there's now a column for write down, which shows us the percentage of time that was written down. So how much was tracked versus how much was actually billed. And we can see the billable hours write down column here, as well as the, that write down column. I'm going to go ahead, add a little bit more data there. That's the same data. How about April? There we go. So we can actually click on an individual. So let's look at Courtney Harrison here. Looks like 50% write down. Click on that. And again, now this is broken down for us per client. Go ahead and open that up. And we now actually see the individual time entries that make up that report. So we see, in this case, it happens to only be one time entry, which makes it quite simple. But if we had more, we would see an overview of those in addition to, how many hours were worked, how much was written down, the rate and the billable amount. So it allows you to get very, very, very focused and honed in on those specific instances of write down. If, we're looking at a productivity, want to know, oh, why does Courtney have 50% of her time not billed in the month of April? Cool. Any questions on write down, Fred? I believe this was released within the last month or two.
Yeah, it was, and we have talked about it in the kind of high level in previous webinars. So hopefully, this is already used and hopefully clear to everyone.
Perfect.
I think as I'm looking through our list of things to cover, Chase, so one thing we haven't talked about is leads codes. Do you want to cover that real quick?
I've had my fill of leads for today, but I guess I'll make an exception. So I believe we've talked about leads previously, but what Fred is talking about is when you create a time entry, you have an option to add in activity and task code, your leads codes. Now it does require the firm be set up to use leads. So you'll have gone through this process, picked your codes, set up the matter to use leads. Go ahead and create a time entry here. And what that does is it creates two extra dropdowns here and here. Let's see if I can grab one that is, I'm just playing darts here with guessing which one has it. All right. We'll do it this way with leads. That tells me pretty quick. All right. So Jackie Ratton has it. There we go. So because Jackie is set up to use leads, we now have the activity and task code dropdowns available. When you pick one of these codes, it will automatically fill in the description with the contents of that code, unless you already have something in that description. So it's not, overriding something you already tracked. And you can also set these codes to be required. So, pretty easy to forget an option there. You can actually set the default to require these codes. I believe that's on a per matter basis.
Yes.
Let's go do that. So if we come in here to the lead settings, we can actually require those different codes in order for an entry to be saved. So just as if you'd forgotten to save or to enter a date, LeanLaw is going to say, nope, can't save the entry because you're missing a required field. And it would say, oh, you're missing your leads codes.
There was a question here about the write down feature for time entries, if it's pro only, and the answer is yes. One thing though, if you do have pro and you don't see the feature, it does need to be enabled. So if you want to show where to actually enable the feature, Chase. So it's under reports. Maybe not super obvious, but basically, if you're not seeing write downs and you'd like them to be enabled, check that box and it will be opened up for you.
Perfect.
We did initially implement this as an automated feature where it would always be available, and that didn't turn out well for some reason. So there it is. Chase, I think time flies as we're talking time tracking. Isn't that ironic?
Oh boy, you better slow down there, Fred.
I wanted to summarize before we shift into some new things. One thing that we didn't sort of spend a lot of time on is maybe sort of leave you with what these 4 tools that we've shown you, or 5, depending on, like, we've shown you, the calendar page, we've shown you timers, we've shown you the mobile app and the desktop tracker, and now the time entries page here. They're all like just kind of tools in a toolbox, and you're not all going to want to use all the tools. For some of you, you are not going to want to use the calendar. It's just like annoying, or maybe that's the perfect thing. So pick the tools that work well for you and your firm and use those. One thing I'd like to say is that the time entries tab that Chase ended up showing is definitely the place to kind of review time. Like if you're wondering, where did my time go? What did I do? I recommend this is the place you go to kind of get that overview, sort the filters out, see what happens last month, and review things, maybe edit, etc. I would not want to review my time for the month on the mobile app, even though you could. But here's a better place to kind of do the review, regardless of how you entered the time. The time entries tab is actually also really good for bulk time entry. So if you're entering, like, let's say you have an attorney that still writes down time on a piece of paper, and you're tasked with entering it all in on their behalf, God forbid, then this is actually a really good place to do it. You pick the timekeeper, the client matter, start typing, and this is tuned. This was actually originally built for bulk time entry, where you can tab through really easily. It clears out the description and so on. You get ready to type in a new one. So bulk time entry, like, this is where you want to be. Chase mentioned on the calendar, that's a great place to spot gaps. So, that's where you want to be for that. We tried to improve all these tools, yeah, so this is the current state of them, I guess. Let's see. I think, did I miss anything then? That sort of overview of why you would use the different things and when?
Nope.
Or
I think you're spot on with use the tool that makes sense, and make sure everyone in the firm knows what is available, because different tools make sense for different people.
Great.
So, Fred, I'm ready for the next section, which is new features. This is
okay.
My personal favorite part. I love talking and all, but I also like hearing about all the new cool things I get to see and work with and teach people how to use. So what do you got this month?
Okay, what do I have? I have the biggest thing that I have. Let me share my screen. I guess you have to stop first.
There you go. All yours.
Thank you. Let's go here. So here we are. I'm sharing my screen, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. We've actually talked about this in either it was last month or the month before, but we're introducing a new UI for navigating around your clients and matters. And we've started enabling this for clients. And so you should see this pop up in your product here pretty soon.
What exactly were you looking at? Because all I'm seeing is that monitor I'm really envious of. That is huge and takes up a ton of space.
I'm sharing the wrong screen, so that's why I was asking you.
Are we hosting a code review, or are we looking at features?
Sorry, I've shared the wrong screen. Hopefully,
much better. You're letting all of our secrets out. They're gonna reverse engineer it all.
Okay, so here's LeanLaw, so what I'm talking about is the Matters tab. Right now, when you click on that, it looks like this. Mm-hmm. It has a list of matters, and when you click on a matter, it goes into this edit mode for the matter, and you can click through these tabs here. What we're about to release, and you'll see this pop up here in the next week or so. We're releasing it sort of gradually to clients. It's going to look like this. So it's still the same list of matters. You have it styled slightly differently. You have the same options over here, the same page flicker over here. You can still search. You have this basically the same stuff. It looks the same here. When you click in on a matter, we also have some significant styling differences here, but don't panic. You have exactly the same. There's a few more tabs here, but you have exactly the same features in here: billing and rates, fixed fees, QuickBooks, leads. There's some more stuff here I'll show, but the biggest thing that's changed is that we have taken the client tab away and now made a client page. So to get to the client, you click on the client link up here to kind of get back to the client. And now I'm looking at the client and I can edit the client information here, cancel, etc. Now I see the list of matters over here for that client and can like drill into different clients up here, pick matters here, drill into them. So here I'm seeing individual matters and I can go back out to the client by clicking up here or unselecting the matter over here. So,
or you just click the clients tab at the top.
Yeah, yes.
Well, spoilers, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just sort of explaining here how you know, when you come in here, instead of seeing the matter like you're used to, you can also navigate easily to other matters for that client and then out to the client as a whole here. And you probably have noticed already here that we have some more information. We have this overview tab for the client and for the matter where we surface certain information. Let me see if I can find something interesting here. Here.
There we go.
So here's a client with WIP, a WIP summary, the different users, total, expenses, and so on. So we have a sort of quick way to see what the WIP for that client is. An account summary, balance, trust account summary, the last payment, and then links over to the report section. So we can see, for example, hey, I want to see a detailed trust report. You click on this open tab here or open button here, or a productivity report for last month, and you click on this button here. So there's sort of shortcuts, and we're looking for ideas here. Like we're going to make this configurable at some point. This is a starting point of something that we think is sort of generally useful for most of you, but we're going to add more and more flexibility in here. You can filter this down to a matter by clicking on the matter, and then it change, you know, the data is now drilled into that matter. The other thing we've added over here is a billing activity tab.
Wait, real quick. That overview tab has been probably one of the longest standing requests that we've had from our users. Like, hey, it would be awesome if I could see things like WIP or trust balances or last payments made when looking, you know, at my client or matter page. And I think like 3 years. So I personally am super excited about this because it allows, you know, folks that are jumping between multiple pages. It streamlines a lot of that. You don't have to go run a report to pull this up, or say you're on the phone with the client and you want to give them a heads up like, hey, this is how much you can probably expect to see this month, or this is what you've got in trust. You don't have to go pull multiple reports now in that phone call. You just look at the overview page for the client or matter you're discussing, and it's all there. Not to mention those shortcuts there to specific reports that you'll find useful. So
yeah, no, that's great. The other new thing we've added in here, both on the client and the matter page, is the billing activity tab. So another way of surfacing kind of information that you'd otherwise have to hunt for in different parts of the product. this combines invoices and payments. We're adding trust information and trust transactions in here, but actually we did add it.
Hey, there it is.
I forgot. You have to check this box to include it though. So when I click on include trust, it'll sort of merge in or shuffle in the trust transaction, so you can see sort of a full billing activity and accounting activity history for this client or for individual matters. If you click into a matter, again, it filters down to just that. So I think this it shouldn't be a hard transition for you, but you might sort of be when this is enabled, you might go, might have to sort of do a double check on where did you guys move my thing? And that's where we moved it. Now, if you get stuck or frustrated, you can click on the Matters tab and then click on this yellow box here, which brings you back to kind of the familiar view. So, but I encourage you to use this new UI to do your work from now on when we enable it. Now, there's also a new option up here on the tabs when that Chase already mentioned. You can now, instead of looking at all the matters with the client shown next to it, so here's like 4 matters for the same client, you can just look at the clients by clicking on the clients tab. So this is more of a client view, where you can see the list of clients. It doesn't show any other matters, but this is all my clients and some contact information. Then when you drill into a client, you get to the same page we saw before. So it's really just, there's now 2 ways of navigating in. You can either click on the matters and start there, or click on the clients and start there. You end up kind of in the same place in both cases. I think, man, yeah, as I said, time flies. I think we're sort of out of time. As I said, we're gonna enable this for you. So watch for that to next time you log in. We will also pop up, just in case you're worried about sort of your users in the firm handling this, we will pop up a little message for all users that explain what this does, including a link to some detailed explanation and documentation for how to use this. So we're trying to do our best here to help you and your users with this transition. So
we'll give you the quick brochure on how it works.
Yeah,
that way you're not just fumbling around. Set you up for success.
Yeah, I think so. Chase, here in the last couple of minutes, we should mention what our next topic is for next month.
Yes. So next month we're going to be covering compensation and distributions. Fred and I were trying to come up with cute names to title the event. I think the one we're on currently is Cutting the Cake. I liked Slicing the Pie, but all the discussion.
I thought it was Splitting the Loot. I thought it was the
Sharing the Booty.
Yeah, but, so it's features. We've touched on this in previous webinars, but we're going to do a deep dive on some of our compensation reports, and also a new feature that we will launch by then, called distributions, where you can manage payments and your compensation allocations for attorneys. So that's going to be our topic next month. So a little more of a sort of technical accounting topic than our time tracking topic this month, but I think it should be good.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to writing the script for it too.
Nice. All right. I think we are there. Thanks everyone for participating, and we'll see you next time.
See you next month.